So boys, so many of us are starting to get editors for our video, which I think is a good thing to do. It's a good investment to make. And so I want to explain to you what the best kind of editing is for our videos. So all of us here are doing like educational videos where we're trying to give value to a certain avatar, a certain niche, so that we can send them to like an educational product. So there's a way to edit which most YouTubers have done in the past, which is where you're trying to edit to increase retention. And the way you do that is through like brain rot editing. And the sort of biggest version of that is like half screen talking head video and half screen fucking Subway Surfers GTA gameplay. As we all know, that's retarded, right? So what's the way to edit for an educational video? It's how this video shows you basically the best example, where what we'll say is it's a lot of text-based edits, where you've got stuff on screen like this that comes up, every step he's going through, it comes up with like, step 3, step 4. It constantly reminds you what we're doing. I know that seems so basic, but I'm telling you, so many people have got such shit attention spans that if you're going over like point number 1, track your macros, step number 2, check your weight every day, having just a bit of text on screen which says like step 2, building your dream physique or something, that just kind of like gives the viewer who's just went AFK with his shitty attention span, it kind of soothes him to show, oh yeah, this is the video I clicked on, yeah, makes sense. Have a look at some other of these edits that he's got. So like he's got some graphics on the screen and some text-based things. Just see how no one would complain about this. No one would complain saying, this is brain rot editing. I hate the edits. No one would say that because this editing genuinely is adding to the knowledge we're getting. Now, this editing might not increase the retention of this video. This is why you can't trust Mr. Beast, because when he gives advice on YouTube, it's all about the retention and the click-through rate. He's trying to attract retards. We're trying to attract people by giving them such valuable education that they want to buy from us. That's how this kind of editing won't change any of your metrics. It won't give you more views, retention, anything like that. But anyone who's like a good student will like you more because you've given them like a text-based edit that isn't attention grabbing. But anyone who's actually like studying your video to try and get some advice from you will actually appreciate that you've got like some text-based edits like this. Have a look at some more. Like obviously he's got a bit of B-roll when he's talking about like this YouTube channel, so he'll have a little screenshot of that. That's fine. Just see stuff like this where he's gonna have like the steps that we're going through, and so over and over he keeps adding to this little picture. Let me see if I can get it for you. Yeah, right here. He keeps adding to this little picture as time goes on because people's brain just keeps going AFK. They forget what they're watching. And when you have something like this, which like, it starts with just one and everything else is blank and it kind of adds on and on and on, you kind of like, you're getting this like nice healthy dopamine, which is like, oh yeah, sure. Like, okay, right. I wonder what the next one's going to be, whatever. So have a look at this as well. I think this stuff is awesome. See, like he's added this like graphic. Just see how this is just perfect. Now look, he didn't need to add this graphic, right? His editor didn't need to add this in. He could have just explained, with his hands, like there's 3 things. There's the wow factor, the magnet, the expert's edge. But by adding this kind of graphic, just see how it adds to the education. Just see how it, like, if you're a good student for this video, you're watching it thinking like, oh yeah, okay, like your brain kind of like works well. You're thinking, okay, that's where we want to be, whatever. So you can do this with whether you get a video editor and you send them this exact video, just search for it on YouTube. Send them that video and tell them, okay, this is the way I want you to edit, add like a lot of text-based things that add to the video. If I'm ever making a list or something, if I'm going through steps, have it like this, like step number whatever with the topic that we're talking about, like building an aesthetic physique, step 9 of getting to day 50 of no fat, whatever. Constantly through the video, which kind of reminds the viewer like what they're watching. And some graphics like this, whether the editor draws them, whether you find them online and you just kind of add them in, maybe you even draw them, right? Imagine how wholesome it'll be to see like we grab a piece of paper, we draw something, and then we have that come up on screen. It very much adds to the education. Like many of you have said, you really like the lectures where I draw stuff because it just kind of helps you to like comprehend something. So it doesn't need to be high production. See how this is very clean and high quality. It doesn't need to be like that. You still, of course, you want it to look nice, but it doesn't have to be like as sort of clean as this. It could be a scrappy picture that you've drawn, but when you add that over the screen, do you see how that would add to our education? If we're talking about a habit tracker, for example, just see how having a picture of your habit tracker would make sense. It's like, that's such a nice edit to add in. compared to what a lot of editing has been like, which is getting phased out, which is like retention, entertaining edits that can boost views and retention, but you're often attracting retards who aren't there for the education. So you want to keep those down to a minimal. You want to preferably find an editor who understands your humor, for example, and he can add something funny in. He can add like a little meme when you're talking about something, whatever. But you want to keep the sort of brain rot editing down to a minimal, and you want to have more of this sort of educational, knowledgeable editing with like graphs, text, those kinds of things. Just see, look, do you see how like he wouldn't actually need to have this, right? He can just say this. But if you have this on screen as he says this, it just kind of like, it's nice to kind of read a step-by-step thing that he's talking about right now. This is like a very nice level of editing, which is, it's quite plain as well. It's not like we've edited his voice. It's not like there's random sound effects with like fucking, hit markers from Call of Duty or some shit like that, Mr. Beast's face, or it's, some explosions or whatever. You don't need that shit. There's just like a bit of text on the screen like this makes the video feel like really professional. So whether you're editing yourself or you're about to get an editor, taking a few screenshots from what you can see here and adding what we'll call from now on like educational editing or like text-based editing, that's what we want to see in some of our YouTube videos. Now, you don't need to have editing. If you want to go just unedited the way that I do on my advanced channel, by all means go ahead. But when you do want your video to be like a bit more higher production and you're willing to invest into it, whether it's with your time or with like some editor, it makes sense. Let me just show you another example which I've seen from like some Hormozi videos recently. See how like the number comes up on screen. Hormozi's been going a bit more like brain rot recently, but like some captions make sense. Yeah, let me show you. Problem with Hormozi is he's become friends with Mr. Beast, so his videos have, in my opinion, have gotten kind of worse recently because there is like this. Just see how he's talking about some tips, whatever, and on the screen says what tip he's talking about. That's like an edit. That's not going to increase retention or get more views. But anyone who is like a good student who values the education, which by the way, they're the type of people who will buy your program, they're going to like enjoy some edits like this because this adds to the education. Let's have another one. Like sometimes he's talking and just see like text-based edit pops up on screen. Not essential, so you don't have to do this, but when you do have the potential investment, for an editor or so, having something like this come up just adds to the video. Let's do one more example. Again, see how it's text-based? This is a bit more like brain rot style with, it's like flashy text colors, and it's probably got some sound effects, whatever. But yeah. Like this. It's so simple, but as soon as you're on this bit, imagine your phone rings, whatever. Imagine you're eating for a second and your mind wanders. When you come back, you know exactly which bit you're on again. Sometimes without this kind of text-based editing, you kind of forget what the guy's talking about. When he's like a few minutes into a explanation of something. It can't just happen to me. I know it happens to many of us. Like sometimes you just kind of like lose your focus. You forget what the guy's speaking about. When you have this kind of like a chapter title there, it makes it so easy to be like, oh yeah, sure, okay, that's the lesson there. Okay, that's the lesson there. Okay, sweet. This is the thing we're talking about. If someone knocks on my door right now and I get disturbed for like a second, I go get my food delivery, whatever. When I come back within a second, I'll know which part we're watching, compared to if I just listen to him, I might not know.
Lessons that I've learned from growing school, tremendous.
That was like the worst bit for me to unpause for my example, because
obviously over the last. And so our first launch of the school games page, like founder Paul Graham has this statement that I probably feel like I've said a whole bunch of times this year, which is you can solve almost every problem in a business by talking to your
so just use this as just a lesson right now. If you're about to get an editor, which isn't essential, but if you are about to get an editor, particularly tell them you want this educational style of editing. And if you edit your own videos, some captions, some kind of like chapter titles on screen, this thing here, like the important thing you're talking about as text on the screen. Maybe your camera moves to the side, you've got some like timestamps, you've got some steps, it goes to step number 4 and a screen comes up. That just helps the viewer to kind of remember. It won't get you more views, but it certainly will make the student type of viewers more value and more real education, more insights from your content, and it's the invisible insights that your viewers get that makes them more likely to buy your product. So I hope this helps you.